Good day, everybody. Wherever you are on the globe, it is good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Hans Teslaar. I'm the Executive Director of BIAN. We are on the edge of starting this webinar. As you can see on the slide, from strategic domains to strategic decisions. There are still people joining, so if you stay with me for 2 or 3 minutes, and when we have the people in that we expect, then we will start the webinar. Just give us 1, 2 minutes, and then we start. And we are not going to wait till everybody joins, but that's it. So today we are focusing on let's say a more business intended strategic use of architecture models, and especially from using the BIAN model. Let me see, because now I lost everything. So maybe, Nish, if you can go to the next slide. So always in our webinars, and we have over 200 signups. We get people from all around the globe, and that is great. And of course, from some time zones is in the middle of the night. So you should be extremely eager if you join at 4 a.m. But we also make, as you might know, the recordings available, the slides available, the questions and answers available. So there are also a lot of people who get the link and then listen and look at the webinar at a later, more convenient time. So when we move to the next slide, then today it's the two of us. It's me. I already introduced myself, and we have Nish. Nish is from CC&C Solutions. Nish is for many years involved in BIAN. CC&C Solutions is one of our accredited training partners. So they provide a lot of trainings, but not only trainings, also let's call it architecture consultancy. So how do you embed architecture in your organization? What architecture and governance is applicable for you? How do you start your first project using the BIAN model? I think Nish and his colleagues are one of the few people that knows BIAN inside out. And it also gives them the opportunity to look at different angles on how to use the model. Maybe you followed on LinkedIn their series for, let's say, top down into the BIAN model. If not, I would recommend it. I will explain, let's say, all the, I hate the word, but the artifacts of BIAN, the deliverables, and how you can use them. So it gives a clear and clear insight. And we are now in this webinar taking a look at it, let's say, how you can use it in the decision-making process within your organization. So it's not a technical architectural view, but it's more a business strategic architectural view. So on the next slide, this is how we're going to do it. I will welcome. So this is the welcome. So we are almost ready with the welcome. Then I will do an overview for those who don't know who we are, a short overview who we are. And then I hand over to Nish, and we end with a Q&A. So we encourage you to ask your questions. There is on the bottom side of your screen is a Q&A button. While Nish is talking, I will try to answer as many questions as possible, as far as my knowledge goes. The questions we cannot answer, we will answer in writing, and we will also send all those Q&As later on together with the link to the session. So on the next slide, you get an introduction. So we all know that it is not easy to run, let's call it an architectural department in a bank. And it's not easy to get the recognition that you want to have as an architect. But I also think that in the last 5-6 years, the view on architecture has changed, and it's becoming more a roadmap for organizations. So where do we move from a business perspective? Where do we move from an IT perspective? How can we decomponentize our existing IT environment and make the whole institution, bank or the insurance company, whatever, more agile. And also by doing so, lowering the overall IT cost. So I think that is the strength of architecture. And now we also discover that there are other ways of taking advantage of all the hard work the architect did to create the models. On the next slide, we will see our mission statement. So BIAN started in 2008, and I think it's good to know that we are a not-for-profit association. So we don't sell anything. So we make our models available. All our models are available royalty-free. You can find them at BIAN.org. And so we do have, let's call it the bank on the page with all its functions. We have a business capability model. We have a business object model. We have process models, and so on and so forth. And in the last 18 months, we added a lot of AI tools that we created ourselves to make it easier to use the model, to make it easier for you to get insight into the model. And let's call it discovery tools. And we are in the process of creating tools to generate solutions. And that's early stage, but let's say the first experiments are proof of concepts are extremely successful. But you can only do that in a successful way if you have a consistent, stable model underneath. Otherwise, you are navigating in the mist. And I think what Nish will show is that the model helps you to navigate with clear sights. I think that's so. We go to the next slide. So here you see an overview of the current member base. So the members are from all around the globe. So these are the financial institutions. So you see Barbara Bank in Kuwait, and you see AXA in South Africa, but we also have Vietnam, North and South America, and so on and so forth. So we have a global spread, and we also help in all those regions to help financial institutions to become more standardized and becoming more agile. And on the next slide, you see the first view of our what we call partners. So it will be the integrators, the tech providers, the consultancies, and you see a lot of familiar names. So everybody knows IBM and Salesforce, but there are also less familiar names, like Capri in South America. So again, here it's also global presence, and all these partners, and of course also the financial institution, try to apply BIAN to their own needs. So there is no one way to do it. And I think that is also, I always get the question, where should we start? Yeah, you need to start where you have the needs to start. On the next slide, you see the continuation of our partners. And for me, the last slide before I hand over, you see the standard bodies. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So you see in the middle part the standards bodies in our industry, and with all those, we have an agreement in place that we can use their materials and they can use our materials. So we don't invent wheels that already exist. On the top, you see 4 universities, our academic partners, where we did proof of concept with. So it is a little bit slow on that perspective. Maybe we should reanimate that relationship. And on the bottom, you see our accredited training partners, and you also see their CC&C solutions. So they can provide all types of training on BIAN, in-house, online, virtual, you name it. So I think it's now for me time to hand over to Nish. Okay, Nish.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much, Hans.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that introduction. And hi, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to present today. Just by way of quick background, so as Hans introduced us, we are a BIAN and an enterprise architecture training consulting firm. So we have helped banks and credit unions, large and small, with both the adoption of BIAN as well as more broadly getting their enterprise architecture established correctly and covering, people, process, and tools. Through this journey, we have gathered quite a lot of experience, obviously, in how these architectures can add value and solve, real problems that financial institutions are facing. And today, what we're going to share with you is one facet of that, which is how does the BIAN service domain help you with making practical decisions across your enterprise that would otherwise either take a long time to make or have significant gaps? So this is really about bringing value to the decision-making process using the BIAN landscape as that foundation, and also an enabler to harnessing AI in a way that gives you accuracy rather than hallucination. So, as Hans mentioned, BIAN began as an integration and composability standard, and it quickly became a strategic capability model and a reference architecture. With AI now, it is, you'll see through this webinar, extremely well positioned to become the fabric of an intelligence layer for your organization. So, to paint the picture, I'm going to take us back a couple of hundred years to London, August of 1854, where there was, it's not as popular as the Great Fire of London or anything like that, but there was an incident that became somewhat famous for reasons you'll see, and that is cholera. So cholera was ravaging the Soho district. There were hundreds of people dying, right, each day. And all the physicians in the area were busy cataloging all the data, right? They were capturing patient data, symptom data, dates. So they had a wealth of data. They had cases everywhere, but nobody could make sense of it. The hypothesis at the time was that the disease was being spread through the air. So all the interventions, all the kind of preventative measures were all focused around that. Along came a physician named Jon Snow, right? Not the Game of Thrones Jon Snow. This is a real guy. He did something a bit different. What he did was he took the same death records and he plotted them on a map. Not just where the people died, but their relationship to water sources. So he had a different hypothesis. And immediately the pattern started to emerge. There was a clustering in terms of where people were dying, and that clustering could be explained by particular water sources, and more specifically, the Broad Street pump. So if you Google Broad Street pump, you'll very quickly hear about this case and why it was so famous. The takeaway for us in banking and in architecture is that the insight wasn't in the case data, it was in the connection between different data sources. In this case, the cases and debts and the water sources and the pump. So what John did immediately was order the Broad Street pump to be shut down, and within 24 hours, the cases began to reduce, and within a week, there were no more cases. So it was extremely famous because that one insight, coupled with one intervention, literally saved thousands of lives, right? Now, why is that relevant for us? Today, banks have a lot of data, right? So for example, if you look at your application inventory, you will almost certainly have some kind of app catalog, and that will list your applications. It'll list who owns them. It'll list what life cycle state they're in. It'll have their operational cost. So you'll have all this cataloged, right? What that tells you is simply what you have, but it doesn't answer what depends on what. Now, if you were to start to create a relationship between these data sources and connect them, you could start to get insights. So you connect your journeys to your applications using the BIAN service domain, and we'll see in a little while why that's such a crucial link. That same data, but connected in the right way, reveals that you've got high value customer journeys that depend on the fraud watch application, and that's end of life with no migration plan. And there are 180,000 customers affected, right? So you could not get these insights through a single source. What you can do when you relate the data is to start to see, you can trace the impact, the risk, the dependency across the enterprise. So in the same way, Jon Snow, he didn't need more records. He just needed to structure them to reveal the connection between them. So the paradox we have in architecture today We have more data than ever. We have more advanced tools, but the gap between what we know and what we can answer, particularly on demand, has never been wider. The on-demand part's important because decisions have to be made in a timely manner. If you look at the Soho case, waiting weeks before coming to a conclusion that, this is the source of the problem was a life and death matter, right? Now, in banking, even a 1 day delay can result in missed opportunities. And so it is very important to be able to rapidly get the right answers and insights. So today we have, thousands of entities modeled. We have the tools, we have frameworks, we have repositories. But what we're really just producing is artifacts, not answers. If there is a question from leadership, from the board, or from the C-suite about, say, risk exposure, right? That can take weeks to compile across multiple sources using different tools and even unstructured data. And even when you do produce an artifact, it begins to decay upon arrival, right? Artifacts basically age like milk, right? The minute they're out there, they start to become inaccurate. So this is brought to life by a quote from Forrester, which is, the EA repository, which is intended as a source of truth, can devolve into a dusty attic of outdated diagrams and deliverables. So the question is, what if your architecture could answer back? What if it could become a living tool? The reason today's approaches fall short is that it's missing a common frame of reference that connect the data to make it answerable. So if you look at what people tend to use today, dashboards, they show what happened, but not why it happened or what to do about it. On the other hand, if you were to just unleash AI on raw data, we know that the language models will hallucinate wildly if they don't have a semantic structure to ground themselves on and to make meaning of the data, right? And thirdly, if you were to invest in static EA models, they can document the enterprise, but they can't be interrogated, right? They're static. They're not a living insight. So each of these approaches answers a part of the picture, but none of them really connects your strategy and your journeys and your applications and your risk all in one place. The missing ingredient is a stable semantic canvas that every source can attach to. And this is where BIAN comes in. So we have lots of data. We now have AI. The piece that really completes the puzzle is using BIAN as the organizing framework for your model. First, let's look at common existing organizing frameworks, right? If you use applications, the problem with that is they obviously change with every platform decision, right? If you use org structures as your organizing framework, they shift with every reorg. If you use capabilities, business capabilities, they can be ambiguous, they can overlap, and they're also very hard to govern. And lastly, if you use processes, they are interdependent, they're complex, and they also overlap. The reason the BIAN service domain works as an organizing framework is that firstly, it's stable. So it's an industry standard. It's not tied to a particular vendor or a technology or an organization structure. It's also semantic. The meaning is consistent across the entire organization. It's consistent across the entire globe, right? It's mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. The 320 odd service domains are clearly defined, they do not overlap, and collectively they describe all the capabilities in banking. And lastly, they are created according to a pattern-based approach with defined guardrails. So there's a strong degree of governance already built into the model. So for those who are new to BIAN, right, I've just described some of the characteristics, but I'll just take a quick moment to describe what is a service domain. A service domain is a unit of banking capability that has business value. It's clearly defined with the scope boundaries, and it is mutually exclusive. The way BIAN has defined these capabilities, there is no ambiguity or overlap between them. So you can think of these capabilities as the building blocks through which you can assemble your banking blueprint in a way that is really well organized and serves as an extremely good foundation upon which to link your strategies, your journeys, your applications, etc. So BIAN gives you something that most internal taxonomies can't. It's a stable, pre-governed anchor that every bank, vendor, and regulator can align to. And we're going to show how that helps, right? So if you were to just ask a question, what's our exposure if we lose our fraud platform? Start with the service domain, right? There is a BIAN service domain called fraud evaluation. That can be mapped to your journeys. You've got certain journeys that will use that fraud evaluation capability. So underwriting for mortgage loan, card acquiring, and credit facility, right? Similarly, the service domain can be mapped to the applications that implement the functionality of that service domain. So you've got a loan application, a card ledger, a retail origination platform. So what this does is it can give you insights in the relationship. You can connect your journeys and the customers that go through those journeys. You can connect them to your applications. You can reveal insights like what the revenue exposure is. You can look at what the risk exposure is in terms of application status. And all of these can be done in a way that is hallucination free. The key here is that no single entity contains the answer, right? The insights that we have here, the 320,000 affected customers, the 12 million in revenue at risk, the migration plan or lack of a migration plan, this comes to life in the relationships across the journey, service domains, applications, and financial data. So going back to Soho 1854, John Snow had the same records as everyone else, but his advantage was he structured them to reveal the relationship between debts and water sources. And your architecture data works the same way. Therefore, the right anchor, the right relationships, and thirdly, and most importantly, traversal capability allows Gen AI to unlock the value of your enterprise architecture. So it's really important to remember the AI isn't your intelligence, your model is, right? BIAN's role, the service domains, the business object model, and the semantic APIs provide the governed structure that grounds the AI, prevents hallucination with standardized meaning. Gen AI can therefore become the navigation layer. It's not the knowledge source. The BIAN-aligned model grounds the AI through structured semantics that eliminate ambiguity. And this same model can provide infinite views depending on who's asking. So if we connect, so the blue dots are your service domains. And if you start to link them to your journeys, your applications, etc., you create a connected graph. And you can start to ask questions like, okay, what are my lowest scoring NPS journeys? And you'll see the bits highlighted in red are basically the journey related data and service domains. And so the Gen AI can traverse the model and identify the connected aspects. But your next question might be, what are the root causes of the customer pain points that are causing this low? By the way, NPS is Net Promoter Score. So it's your customer satisfaction, right? So what are the root causes of the customer pain points? Now you have to traverse other parts of the graph to go and get your customer data, your pain point data. Again, using service domains as the kind of key nodes that connect everything. Your next question might be, which in-flight projects can I leverage to address these pain points? Okay, let's go and traverse the graph further. Look at your project data and look at the linkage from service domain to the pain points. And then lastly, you can say, what other issues or incidents can I fix while I'm addressing these customer pain points? And so that can go off and look at other incident and project data. So the whole point of this is that if you invest in a model that is anchored on the BIAN service domains, the service domains don't change, their definitions don't drift, their meaning is canonical, it's understood, the responsibility boundaries are very clear, there's no overlap, that they form the perfect grounding for your enterprise data. So let's bring this to life with a real live demo, right? We're going to play the role of a chief product officer who wants to identify the root cause of low net promoter score in their journeys. They want to understand what's causing my customer satisfaction in some of these journeys to be so low. And how do I fix it? Where do I need to invest to actually fix this? Now, if you were to ask this question today, using traditional methods, this would take weeks to answer, and there would be a 40-page deck, and it would kind of walk you through the data and explain the reasoning and so on, right? The problem with that is, of course, things have moved on at that point, right? You've already got customers dropping off. You may have by then had another project deliver a new document collection capability through your digital channel, and the goalposts have shifted. Now you've got a different problem for your net promoter score. So we can't afford to wait for weeks to answer these types of questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my screen and bring up a tool that we've developed, which uses the BIAN service domain model as a stable anchor. We have put in bank data that reflects strategies, journeys, applications, projects, incidents, capabilities. We have put that data into the tool and we have connected it to the service domain. So in other words, we've done a kind of a bigger version of what you're seeing on the screen here, right? So I'm going to switch to my web browser. And hopefully this will come up in a minute for everyone. Hans, if you could let me know whether you can see this.
Nish, we can see it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Yvonne. All right, great. So what you're looking at is just a simple chat interface, right? There's a model sitting underneath this, which we'll show in a second, but we have basically created an interface that allows you to just basically chat with your enterprise architecture data, right? So everything I've described earlier, service domains, linked to journeys, linked to applications, linked to projects, linked to your strategies, etc. So let's go back to our chief product officer and ask the question that is top of mind for them. I'll just paste that in here. So they are saying, what are my lowest scoring NPS journeys? Now, what this does, there's an agent, an AI agent, that is interpreting the question. It is connected to this graph model that we have of our enterprise. And based on the context it's picking up from the question, it's able to query the graph and work out, okay, is there journey data? Yes, there is. Okay, what can I learn about these journeys? How do I aggregate these insights? And so this first answer that's come back is really just focused on the journey data. It's nothing special yet, right? We haven't really taken advantage of the relationships. But what it is telling us is there are a number of journeys that have low net promoter scores. So if we look at the ones in red, dispute resolution, payment difficulty, business lending, these are your bottom performers in terms of customer journeys, right? And you can see the net promoter score. So we already know where to start focusing, right? We've got these 3 journeys that are, underperforming quite a bit. And we can see a breakdown, right? This is just getting the data out of your enterprise, existing enterprise data. So we can see that these journeys, what customer segment they sit in, what the NPS score is. We can see the customer conversion rate. We can see the digital adoption rate. So we can get a breakdown of data, and of course through the chat we can query and ask for more things if we want it, right? And there's a raft of other insights that this will provide, right? But if I focus on this, and if I go, okay, as the chief product officer, I now know straight away that I've got 3 journeys that are in trouble. My next question would be, let me just bring up my chat. Yeah, my next question would be what we asked in the slide, which is, what are the root causes? Now, in this case, I can be specific in my prompt and say, because I know that dispute resolution, payment difficulty, and payment difficulty assistance and business lending are the lowest performing journey stages, I can now, in my back and forth with the AI and my architecture, I can say, what are the root causes of these low performing journeys? And I'll specifically name them: dispute resolution, payment difficulty assistance, and business lending. Now, once again, the AI is able to interpret the question, but more importantly, it's using the relationships that we have in our underlying model to traverse and identify from incident data what is causing these low NPS scores. And the reason it can do that is because these journeys are connected to service domains and the incidents are connected to service domains. So we're using the BIAN service domain as those stable anchor points for these relationships to be meaningful and to be accurate. So what this is telling us is we have a set of journey stages. So within those 3 journeys, we've got stages like, there's a stage for financial documentation, a stage for credit analysis, a stage for needs assessment. And we can see what the drop-off rate and the manual intervention rate are, because those are 2 very good indicators of why people might be annoyed, right? And so we can get a more meaningful breakdown of the 3 journeys we just talked about. So business lending was one of them. And it says here, The AI has been able to look at the data and say, you have a number of challenges. The financial documentation journey stage is showing a 20% drop-off rate. If you look at, if it correlates that with the incidents that have been raised against this journey stage, and can see that the incident causes include process gaps, system limitations, training gaps, and data quality. And so it's able to break that down into a sort of a more actionable breakdown that allows you to focus on what you need to fix. So in business lending, you can see financial documentation by far and away has the highest number of incidents. The others, sure, there are some other challenges, but as the chief product officer, if I just want to kind of fix my biggest burning platform, I would go for the financial documentation stage. Similarly, payment difficulty assistance, same thing, right? It's able to go and look at this journey stages. And in this case, it's identified that the financial assessment journey stage requires 75% manual intervention. And again, it's got root causes, right? So, and lastly, the dispute resolution journey. So we get similar insights there. Now, it can also, because it's AI and it's interpreted your intent and it's looking at the context of the overall chat, it's able to say, let me give you some more information that might help you with narrowing down your problem, right? So here's a comprehensive view of all the incidents that are affecting the lowest performance journey stages and the severity levels and associated service domains. So here I can start to get some more insight into each of these journey stages, the kind of the pain, the drop-off rate. I can see what service domain is linked to that journey stage, and hence I can see what the root cause of the customer satisfaction issue is. So this breakdown is extremely helpful in formulating, okay, what should I do about this? And it can only be obtained because we have invested in the relationship of the various enterprise data into a living model that can be not just viewed and printed, but it can be interrogated. You can drill in further. I can ask a question around, give me a further insight to the financial documentation journey stage and, what sub-processes are involved if I have that data mapped, or give me the breakdown of the incidents and the owners of these incidents, or give me the business unit these incidents are associated with. So there's a lot of interrogation that I can do, right? But what we'll do for the purposes of our little demo here is we'll ask the next question that came up in the PowerPoint, which is, now that the chief product officer's kind of got a sense of, okay, I now understand what some of the problems are, what in-flight initiatives can I leverage to address these pain points? So this is important because they're not necessarily going to get separate funding to go off and fix this. The more realistic avenue is, hey, we're already doing a bunch of projects that may very likely be touching the same applications and the same sort of incidents that we have identified as NPS pain points. So through, again, the same context window of this chat, I can query the AI and say, and get an insight that says, hey, look, there are 13 active projects. They have a combined investment of $106 million. Again, this is getting data from your own enterprise data sources, right? That have simply been connected through the service domains. These can be leveraged to address the customer journey pain points. And what it will give you is kind of, well, go project by project. How many of these pain points do each of these projects cover? So the open banking phase 2 project can address 17 pain points that affect your journeys. The Customer 360 initiative can address another 15. The Data Lake initiative will address another 14. So there's an insight you're now starting to get, which is, who should I go and talk to fix these, right? And you get the breakdown, right? Number of pain points addressed, the budget of the project, etc. It can also give you an analysis of the service domains to show you where the pain points are concentrated. So the doc services service domain has 8 of those pain points concentrated there. Party data management has another 7. KYC, underwriting. So you're getting a really concise, directed answer as to where to go if you want to do something about this. And it has full explainability because the reasoning that the model is doing can be traced through the graph, through the service domains, and can be explained. It can be inspected. It can be audited. You can pressure test it. You can go back and if you do find a flaw in the reasoning, it's a simple matter of coming back to this chat and saying, hey, look, your assumption about incidents was not right. I want you to use bugs instead or whatever, right? So if you have the data, you can always fine tune the way the AI interprets that. But the important thing is to have it already connected to these service domains. So we've sort of seen what's possible. If we look at how this is possible, I'm going to give you a sneak peek to the behind the scenes. And when you see this come up, it's going to look a little daunting at first. But under the hood, we have a fully connected model of the banking data, right? Now, this is a subset of the model for performance reasons. We're not showing the whole thing, but these entities collectively represent most of the information that you would have needed to do what we just did, right? So we'll start with the service domains, right? We've obviously modeled the service domains to start with because that's the basis of our graph. And you can map those to your business capabilities. You can also map those to the service domains can be mapped to the projects. The service domains can be mapped to applications, and you can keep adding to this. You can bring in more data. You can map it, but without the service domain as that anchor, the model becomes extremely fluid because there are a lot of moving parts in the organization. As we said earlier, applications come and go, organization units get restructured, processes change, and they also overlap significantly. But the service domain is the service domain. They are extremely stable. And so if you were to link your data up in that way, then pretty much every question that we posed in the chat can be answered with now that Gen AI is powerful enough, and we have BIAN as the anchor point for the enterprise model. When you bring those two together, you get highly contextual, extremely actionable, and hallucination-free insights that you could basically just package straight up into a board paper or a steering committee pack and show the full reasoning, and all the data is evidence-based. You can point back to the sources, and therefore you can have confidence in making the right decisions. So if we go back to, I'll just bring my pack back up. Bear with me. Okay, so hopefully this will come back up. Yvonne, if you could please let me know when the slide deck is visible again.
Yeah, it's fine, Nish.
Perfect. So yeah, so if we go back to kind of what we just did as a very quick walkthrough, your connected model using BIAN as the anchor becomes the unlock for this kind of power in your enterprise intelligence. So in conclusion, right, we saw that in 1854, John Snow mapped debts to water supplies. He saved a city. The question for us is, have we mapped our architecture to the questions that matter? So it's one thing to kind of model your artifacts and your processes and your capabilities and so on. That's great. But have we connected it in a way that answers the questions that allow the enterprise to make decisions on the spot that will improve revenue, reduce cost, and address risk? So the three key takeaways. The model is the asset. The artifacts you produce should be temporary views, right? If you're spending more time producing the artifact than you are maintaining the model, you're investing in the wrong thing, because we saw earlier, the artifact quickly becomes outdated. The second is, it's important to structure your architecture for relationships and traversal, not just inventories and catalogs. The only way you get these kind of insights is if you connect them and you have a way to traverse those connections. So very, very critical. And the third is that the AI amplifies what's already there. It's not the intelligence. The intelligence is in the model. And what we've seen is that the core to that model is the BIAN service domain. And if done well, then everything that you've seen today is just a glimpse into the kind of power that modern large language models, coupled with a well-structured, semantic, context-rich architecture model, will be able to, what it can do, right? You'll be able to see what it answers. So in short, architecture maturity isn't about documentation completeness. Architecture maturity is how fast can you answer the questions that matter. There's no point if it takes 4 weeks to go back and tell your chief product officer that the root cause of their NPS journeys is that the financial documentation step requires too much manual intervention, right? 4 weeks is too late. You've already lost a bunch of customers. You know, some new application has come in and changed the equation. You need to be able to answer these questions in minutes, right? So the call to action there, if you want to see this on your architecture, get in touch with us, info@ccncsolutions.com. We could absolutely have a discussion with you about how to bring this to life in your organization as well. With that, I will hand back to Hans to close us off and go to Q&A.
Okay, well, Nish, thank you very much. I think it was very enlightening, and it also shows how fast the developments are today with all the new technology that is available. And so 2-3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 16-18 months ago, we couldn't dream of these options. And so there is a lot of discussion on AI. There's a lot of discussion on the usage of AI. And so far, the discussions are primarily how do we use AI within our bank processes. Yeah, that's a completely other topic. What we are doing to make the usage of AI more comprehensive than it can be today, we within BIAN started a project we called AI Readiness. And the AI Readiness project, the goal of AI Readiness project to add more detail to the model so that we can better leverage the AI tools that we are developing ourselves and CNC is developing to get even more precise results. So we did a proof of concept, and that showed that in some areas we are lacking or we are not consistent enough. And we started in 2008, so the model is growing over the years. And then, of course, there will be some noise on the line. And so we are filtering that out. And we hope to make a huge achievement on the AI readiness before the end of the year. On the other end, there's another group looking, okay, what are the service domains that could be included in the AI journeys of the bank? And what should be their role? And how do you arrange AI governance? And because the agents can do everything, but they do everything that the human asks them to do. So if it's malicious or henceforth, we need to find a way to stop and to help organizations. What is a proper AI governance? There are some regulatory rules available already, especially in the EU, that we try to interpret how that helps. So that's a little bit AI in a broader sense. We are now discussing this webinar the AI as an additional tool to help architects and organizations to get a clear insight. But there are, of course, more usage of AI that we see arising. So just go back to BIAN. So as stated in the beginning, we are a not-for-profit association. Everything we do, we can only do by the support of our members. So the members have all kinds of roles, participating in working group, creating content, doing proof of concept in their organization. We also have a transformation award where organizations, members and non-members can send in their projects that they run based on the BIAN model to also demonstrate to the industry what the possibilities are in different categories. And of course, one of the roles of the members is that they fund what we are doing. And the funding goes to a membership fee that you see here on the slide. So I think it's also good to know that we set this fees in 2008, set on top. So in essence, you're looking at the 2008 price list. There is no intent to increase the membership fee. So I think the membership fee should not be a hurdle to join us. And you get, of course, a lot of benefits when you join us, but it also helps the industry to move forward. So this is my only sales pitch on BIAN that I will have. And I think we can now go to the next slide. And the next slide will explain the Q&A. There is one question. Let me take a look. One question. Do anchor relationship and traversal apply only to the business objects and the service domain, or could it also be applied to the authority structures and accountability structures? Well, I think that is a question for Nish.
Yes, thank you. Great question. I'm going to try and read it. Sorry, I think I heard what you said, Hans, but let me just bring up the question. If I go to Q&A. Yep, perfect. Okay, do anchor, relationship, and traversal apply only to business objects and service domains, or could they also be applied to authority structures and accountability structures? You could model your authority structures and accountability structures in the architecture model. There's absolutely nothing preventing you from doing that. The key here, of course, is to be really clear on your definitions. And as long as the concept is well defined and understood, it does not need to be limited to your business objects or things like applications and projects. You could absolutely bring in, and in fact, BIAN itself organizes service domains into business domains and business areas. So similarly, you could absolutely link or relate these to your authority structures and accountability structures. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So there is a new, there's a thank you. It was not a question, it was an answer. So Leo, thank you for asking the question. Any other questions? So we have some minutes left. You can see the question.
Yeah, great. So I've got Richard's question here. Can you tell me, please, how does it interpret the root cause in your example? Yeah, great question. So in this particular case, the AI is able to see through the connected graph that all of these journeys that are connected to service domains also then have a relationship to incidents, because we have linked incidents. Either we link the incidents directly to service domains, or we link the incidents to applications which are linked to service domains. I can't quite remember which, because we have iterated on the model a few times. But either way, there's a clear linkage from journey stage to service domain to incident, and it is able to traverse this and say, if this is the service domain that is at the heart of this particular journey stage, I can go and fetch the incidents, and from context based on the description of the incident, I can correlate which ones are likely to be the cause of that particular journey stage pain point. So there is some inference, there is some interpretation, but it's all anchored on modeled relationships that are deterministic, fully explainable, and allow the AI to assess or analyze without hallucination.
Yeah, may I add something to that one? So maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we published a white paper together with ServiceNow on how you can link the ServiceNow database with the digital assets and, of course, the incident to the BIAN model. So we did it together with ServiceNow, BIAN, and Commonwealth Bank of Australia. So that is a starting point on how you can interlink those two databases that make what Nish describes here a little bit easier, so that you can also link the CRDM database with the BIAN database. So that also doesn't need that much manual effort anymore. Just please take a look at that paper, either at the ServiceNow homepage or at our homepage, and you get a little bit more insight what that connection is between the two models. We go to the next question. Yeah, okay, continue.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Richard, the last piece of that answer, I just reread your question. In our particular data, every incident has some other metadata or properties associated with it, which includes a classification of what is the what category does this incident fall under. So we happen to have that in our incident data. So every incident is either an application, application issue, or it's a training gap, or it's a process gap, or whatever. So we happen to have had that classification that allowed the AI to plumb all the way down into that level of root cause. But if your data doesn't have that, it will still at least give you the incidents that you can go off and do some more analysis and investigation. So part of this is about enrichment of the model through the properties, attributes, metadata of the data that you're modeling, so that the AI has the benefit of all of that context. But if it doesn't have it, then it will simply tell you what it does have, and hopefully that points you in the right direction.
Okay, Nish. The next
question. What was the duration, or how long did it take to build out this view? Yeah, great. So look, we modeled a very small bank, right, for the purpose of this demo in our sandbox. So I think we have something in the vicinity of a couple of hundred applications, maybe a few hundred incidents, about 30 projects, 20 odd journeys with maybe 5 journey stages each. So I'm just giving you a sense of the scale. Modeling that and linking it to service domains is an activity that just takes a matter of a handful of weeks. It's not 6 months. It's not even 3 months, right? You can do it a lot sooner. Now, the way you would do this is not as a big bang. What you would do is you would go, let's work backwards, right? What are the most pressing questions in the organization right now, right? So your bank or credit union at any given point is operating in one of 3 modes, right? You're either in a growth mode where you care about revenue, customer acquisition, etc., or you're in a cost mode where you care about cost reduction, margin, etc., or you're in a risk mode where you're concerned about regulatory pressure and compliance and things like that. So once you know thematically what your bank is focused on, you can start to work backwards and say, well, if you're in a cost mode, why don't we model applications, maybe business units and headcount, and then service domains and so on. And then you can start to get some insights immediately about cost-related aspects. If you're in a risk mode, you would try and focus on things like your incidents and your controls. So the point of this is you incrementally build out your model by focusing on the entities that you know would give you the most pertinent insights today. And then you just build up a backlog of, okay, at some point, someone's going to come and ask me about my product profitability. Okay, what kind of data do I need for that? All right, let's put that in the queue and let's bring that in and model it. And that might take a couple of weeks. So the whole point is you just kind of keep building this out, and you do need to keep maintaining it, right? It's like a bonsai tree. You got to prune it. You got to fix up things from time to time. You got to kind of keep it refreshed. But those kind of things are pretty automatable, right? Getting data refreshes and we've got a mapping, an intelligence layer that kind of maps to your service domains. So all that takes a huge amount of labor out of it. But if you just kind of keep that model refreshed and evergreen, then the initial upfront investment, several weeks to kind of build out most of these key relationships. And then it's just kind of incremental after that.
Okay. I think we have time for one more question. So don't be shy. There are no such thing as stupid questions, only stupid answers. So
the pressure's on me.
Yeah, the pressure's on you. Okay. So I would like to thank everybody for their participation. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the questions. If you have any questions left, don't hesitate to send it to info@bian.org. Yvonne will provide you later this week or maybe tomorrow with the link to the recording, to the slides, and to the Q&A. So if there is anything that you would like to discuss with us, feel free to reach out to us, or of course to reach out to Nish directly. You saw the email in the slides. So thank you very, very much. And Mark-Jan Drent said thank you it was very insightful. Great. Thank you, Mark-Jan, for this support. We hope to see you next time. We will keeping up the set of webinars from our perspective. And I also mentioned go look to the LinkedIn series of explanation to how to use the BIAN model better and so on and so forth. And of course, keep an eye on our website. And if you're interested, sign up for our newsletter. So for now, also on behalf of Nish and Yvonne, thank you very, very much. And I hope it helps you, and it also helps you to improve the quality of the things you are doing inside your organization. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.